Hello, this is Mad Cat, the angry egalitarian that discusses this and that. Today I have a special guest, Ceara McCord, on the show, doing a hard-hitting interview. And remember, a dumb person takes things on face value. A wise person questions everything. So, a few weeks ago, I saw Ceara on just one video, and I'm like, so blown away by her. I just had to interview her, and I contacted her on Twitter, and then we started talking and we became friends, and here we are now. So how are you doing, Ceara?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing. And before we get started today, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, I am 23 years old. I'm married. I went to college for psychology. I graduated with a major in psychology and a minor in English for a while. Up until the past 8 months to a year, I was a feminist and a social justice warrior, and I have since then grown up and seen the light, as the case might be, so here I am.
All right, awesome deal. So just a reminder to anyone who's viewing us, if you go to YouTube and type in Ceara McCord's name in the search, you'll see my interview, and you can go ahead and type into the chat. I am monitoring it. Hello to you, John Kelly. He just posted a hello. Woo, 5 viewers. Awesome. Not used to that many. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, this is going to be basically 3 videos, hopefully, because the last interview I did is still in YouTube limbo. I can't actually grab the video. But I'm going to separate these into 3 sections, which will talk about Ceara before she was a feminist, when she was a feminist, and her life now after being a feminist. So we're going to start with her life before a feminist. So what can you tell us about your childhood?
I grew up in, well, for the first 5 years of my life, I was in a trailer park in the rundown half of Owensboro, Kentucky, where it was full of drugs and cockroaches and crazy people. And after a while, we managed to move to this gravel road, like down the back of a gravel road. We bought a rinky-dink double-wide trailer and stuck it in the back of this gravel road right in the middle of an uber-rich neighborhood where everybody was a snob and we were poor, so that was wonderful. But yeah, my parents were into drugs most of my childhood. They would disappear and I would be left with my grandma and I wouldn't see them for a while, or they'd take me over to their friend's house and they'd do drugs while I was in the other room. You know, I'd be stuck there, obviously. I wasn't old enough to drive. I couldn't leave. So that was fun. I was bullied a lot in school because obviously I was a poor kid in a rich school. And I hit puberty a lot earlier than everybody else, so everyone picked on me for that. You want to ask me something specific about it? I could just ramble on about this forever, and I don't want to get off track or anything.
Yeah, I can go ahead and ask you some specifics. What was it like living with your grandmother?
Oppressive. Very, 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 very oppressive. Like, everything I did was bad. You know, if I wanted to listen to metal music, it was bad. If I wanted to play a video game, it was bad. Basically, everything was unholy. And if I decided I wanted to do something that was unholy, it was a sin against Jesus, or, you know, something crazy like that. I was shamed a lot. I was made to think that everything I was doing was terrible. It was it was really rough.
So your mother was very religious then?
My grandmother, not my mother so much.
Oh, I apologize, your grandmother. What was her religious practice?
She's never actually chosen one, but I'm going to go with Southern Baptist because it falls in, like what she does falls into that, I think.
So, it sounds like she was very verbally abusive. Was she physically abusive in any way?
Oh no, 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 no. It was I don't even think she realized she was being abusive. I think she thought she was doing the right thing. She was trying to get me to live the life that she thought was good and was just and holy and stuff. I don't think I don't think she realizes even today how horrible of an effect it had on me. But no, she never put a hand on me.
Okay, so you mentioned that you had kind of a strained relationship with your parents, mentioning how sometimes they'd pick you up just and sometimes bring you to a friend's house. Did you ever reconnect with your parents in your life?
I never really disconnected. I mean, they're my parents. They were always in my life. I mean, there were times when I was ready to kill them, but I didn't really have the option of disconnecting. It was either my parents or my grandmother. I didn't really have anywhere else to go. I mean, I have rich relatives, but they wouldn't have taken me in. I was the bastard, so they didn't want me.
I'm very sorry to hear that. Now, you mentioned about school and having some tough times with that. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, it was mostly people picking on me because I didn't have the fancy clothes. My parents didn't have the fancy car. I wore the same clothes all the time. People told me I smelled bad, which I probably did because I have always had really bad perspiration issues, and no deodorant in the world stops me from sweating, so I always kind of smell bad. I can't help it. But yeah, but most of the bullying came from me hitting puberty before everybody else. I was the very first girl to wear a bra in my class. I was the very first girl to, you know, start my period in my class, and it just it was terrible. Most of the guys didn't really say much, but the girls, I was the biggest slut in the entire school. I was having sex with every single guy because I had big boobs, and I think they were jealous, but I can't really know for sure, obviously.
From what I've seen, that seems to be a common thing with girls who develop early that, everyone wants to immediately hate them because it's like, it's so strange. Many girls want to have big boobs, but then the moment one girl does, then she's just a horrible person. And it's just such a weird dichotomy that happens for adolescent girls. Were you bullied in any other way than just being made fun of and being called a slut?
I mean, yeah, they said other things to me as well. Like they would, like in middle school, I went through my I was having trouble with religion, and I went to a heavily conservative middle school and high school, and people would bully me and call me a devil worshiper and say I was a Satanist and tell me that I'm a terrible person. And even whenever the Pledge of Allegiance was being said, there were these boys who would sit behind me, and they stand, I mean, and whenever it got to the under God part of the pledge, they would scream it at the back of my head like they were trying to tell me, you're horrible for not believing in God. So there was that. It was mostly just your regular put downs. No one ever touched me except for a couple of times. One guy was like grabbing like the fat rolls on the side of my body and yelling jelly roll, and there was a girl who shoved me on the bus. There wasn't much physical. It was mostly just your average put downs, but it happened constantly. I couldn't get through a school day without it happening in every single class.
And did your turbulent time of school continue throughout high school?
It calmed down a little bit in high school until I started questioning my sexuality and I started exploring. Then people at the school started to realize that. And again, it was a heavily conservative high school, so people would attack me for not being the perfect little straight white girl that I was supposed to be. I remember the phrase three-nippled bisexual was thrown at me a couple of times. I don't know where the third nipple came in, but that was one of their favorite insults. And that continued for a while up until I finally, you know, told the girls to shut their faces and they left me alone.
Not that I want to go too deeply into it, but in what way were you exploring your sexuality? Were you just asking a lot of questions, or were you starting to date like females and that got found out?
I came out to a few of my friends and said that I thought I was bisexual, and then apparently someone overheard it and it got spread all over the school. But I was also kind of crazy back then. I did things without thinking. I made out with a girl at the fair, and I dated one girl, but I don't think she was actually into women, because she said, because we were dating for like a week, and then someone asked her if we were dating, and she said, "No, ew." So, but yeah, I was exploring both physically and mentally, but it was just a really bad place to do that. I probably shouldn't have told anybody at the school, but I couldn't tell my grandmother. So, and I couldn't tell my parents, because at the time we were living with my grandmother. It was crazy.
You know, looking at school and all of that, and like some of the differences between men and women, I mean, both have it tough. I mean, there's no denying that, but I think with some of the experiences you went through, you know, it's actually very similar to mine in that, you know, I was often the poor kid in the school, and so I didn't have the coolest clothing. You know, it was always about the shoes, and it's like everyone bragging about how their parents spent like hundreds of dollars on their shoes, and you know, mine were, and I didn't complain. To me, shoes are just shoes. You know, they're going to wear out, so why spend a lot of money on them? But they were always like cheap shoes, and it was just like that's how status was confirmed, was just based on what you were wearing. And of course, very few people liked me because I wasn't cool. So, you know, I definitely understand that right there. As far as getting hitting puberty early and all of that, no, I can't really say I understand that one too much, because that's not something that really happens for guys. But yeah, I think that's one of the tough things for girls in your situation, to deal with something like that.
I always thought that guys that didn't develop fast enough were picked on. You know, it's like the opposite for them. I don't know if that's true. Of course, I'm not a guy, but that's what I've heard, that it's the opposite for guys. If you hit puberty too late, you get made fun of. Is that true? In your experience, at least?
Most of my high school and basically all of my school is kind of a distant memory now. I don't really recall it. Let's go ahead and ask the people in the chat room once they hear this, and we'll read a couple of their answers in a moment. But guys, have you ever experienced any problems like that? Seen any people bullied for hitting puberty late, or any issues about puberty that you might have got made fun of? So that'll be in our next segment when we talk about feminism with Ceara. So if I do manage to break this up, this will be the end of the before feminist segment.